Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, tonight I'm going to go to the movies again. I'm making it like a regular Friday thing that I go out to the movies. Like I've said it before, we have this really old school movie theater here in Astoria called the Columbia Theater. And it's like really old school with like the old school seats, and they serve pizza and beer there, and I don't drink beer, so that's not important to me, but the pizza part is pretty cool, and they have like these couches that you can sit at, so pretty good. And I believe it's what was the name of the movie? I don't think I've really ever heard of this one. Everything Everywhere All the Time, if I got it right. Anyway, um pretty cool. Looking forward to going and watching that. um let's see, how many are here? 26. That's enough of you guys. At least to start talking, right? So it turns out Russia has paid these bonds, right? So these bonds were due about a month ago. They have a grace period of 30 days. I think that grace period is due on the 4th. And today they went ahead and made the payments. Now, this whole Russian bond thing has been a very interesting story to follow. Now, Russia had issued out bonds in US dollars. This is really important to think about because it's US dollars that are needed to pay these bondholders. And Russia had told the United States to go ahead and pay the bondholders with the money that was frozen in the accounts that Russia has within the United States. So these bonds, I believe it was JP Morgan who was supposed to facilitate the trade. I can't remember exactly who it was, but these accounts were frozen. And Russia says, hey, these bonds are due. They're due in US dollars. You have our US dollars. Go ahead and make the bond payments. What's stopping you? And the United States was like, no, those assets are frozen. You can't use them. You have to use the dollars within your own nation to pay those bondholders. And Russia wasn't going to do it. They're like, no, we'll pay you in rubles. How about that? We're not paying you in US dollars. We'll pay you in our sovereign currency. And the bondholders are like, no, that's not going to satisfy us. We need to be paid in our US dollars. That's what the contract is issued for. That's what we loaned you money for. That's what we're going to get paid back in. And Russia was pretty much going to be like, no, we're going to default on it then. I mean, if you don't want to use the frozen assets and you don't want to take rubles, then you have no choice. We're going to just let it go ahead and fail. Which brings up a whole interesting point about credit default swaps, which is the insurance policy that goes with it. So it turns out that Russia, in this game of chicken, decided that they're going to go ahead and make the payments. That, with their dollars that they have within their own nation, they're going to go ahead and make those payments. Now, I was of the belief that they were not interested in unloading these US dollars from within their own nation because US dollars are valuable. And if you don't believe it, just go and look at some of the other things that are taking place across the world that are demanding US dollars. Mainly check out Sri Lanka. That's a major nation, or not a major nation, a major issue within that nation. There we go. Of the lack of dollars that are happening there because of the less people traveling to go visit. And I believe it was also something to do with like a ship, like a freight kind of hub or something like that. That's no longer being used as much. So these dollars are no longer coming into Sri Lanka as much as it once did, and that nation is suffering big time from it as well. But going back to Russia and what's taking place there is that this brings up an interesting kind of point here, that United States is still not happy with the idea that Russia is going to make these payments. Like, are they going to be allowed to facilitate that trade? Like, do the bondholders actually get the money in the end? Because Russia's saying, yeah, we'll go ahead and pay it from our within our own nations, or with our own dollars within our nation, because obviously they don't want to default on these bonds. Once you default, it becomes very difficult for you to start doing business with anybody else around the world. So it's very important that they keep this bond market going. But it's more important than that when you think about the contagion effect that can come from this, because right now there is a lot of bondholders out there who are holding those Russian bonds that if that asset goes to zero, that's going to start to create an issue of like contagion. Basically, if you are a holder of Russian assets and you have a balance sheet within yourself, those assets begin to fall, your liabilities go up more than your assets, your credit rating begins to diminish as well. Next thing you know, everybody who is holding your debt has the same thing happening. And so it starts creating this contagion of like ever downward spiraling debt defaults. And that can really, that's a very serious, possibility that could come from it. So here we are. Like, what do we know? Like, nobody seems to be talking about the contagion. Like, they talk about the Russian debt defaults and how that can be a bad deal, but they don't really talk about the contagion that can come from that. How, like, other nations around the world, other corporations can begin to fall from this, and when their credit ratings go down, next thing you know, like, everybody's credit ratings start to diminish because of it. Um, and then that on top of the credit default swaps that go with it, the insurance policies that are meant to pay. And a lot of these credit default swaps are saying this is out of their scope of obligation. I think that's the way they termed it, out of their scope of obligation, meaning that they may not pay because of these sanctions and the frozen assets and stuff. It was like, hey, this isn't like, this isn't a real default. This is like being forced default, and therefore we're not making this insurance payment. If the insurance payment doesn't go through, now you're in some serious trouble with like the investors, because they're counting on those insurance policies. I mean, what's the point of having an insurance policy if it doesn't make you whole again once the investment that you have purchased begins to default? So if the insurance policy doesn't pay, now we got some serious issues. This is where it starts bleeding into like that shadow, the whole like, the not just like the shadow banking system, but the shadow currency systems. And then like the whole like credit derivatives, everything that's like out there that makes this market so much bigger and obscured beyond just like what's in the view of the banks, because a lot of people don't realize it. Like, there's a whole banking system and currency system that is completely outside of the scope and view of the banking system. It's the shadow banking system, the shadow currency system. And this system, like, nobody knows how big it is. Like, nobody knows exactly like the size of it and how much of an impact it can have on the economy once it starts to collapse. I mean, a good very small view of what happened was the great financial crisis when it happened inside of the mortgage market. Imagine that happening on sovereign debt and corporate debt all at the same time. I mean, you're talking some serious issues coming. All right, what are you guys talking about here? Chip, I heard about that too. You're the second person to bring it up. Uh-oh, what was Chip talking about? Chip, here we go. Hey, UE, you were talking previously about all these big warehouses, distribution centers being built all over the US. Totally true. I'm currently working on a warehouse project in California, 40 million square feet. Yeah, this is going to become, well, it's going to become a normal for a while, is to have all this stuff on hand. Once this, like, going from like a just-in-time distribution network to having on hand distribution, a much more local, shorter distribution route, because it's going from a warehouse to the retailers in a much shorter route, as opposed to traveling halfway across the country, world, or country, or wherever. The only thing about that is that, yeah, it's going to be built and work and be functioning for a while, and people are going to be like, no, this is the way that it works again. But what will end up happening is that the entrepreneurs will find those distribution networks out there that are more just-in-time delivery, being more efficient to bring the products to the customer, excuse me, in a cheaper, quicker fashion. These warehouses will no longer be needed. So at this time, yeah, it's going to be a big deal to have them and use them, but then give us some time and we will go back into pretty much the way we were, and all these warehouses there won't be a need for them anymore. All right. Just because these fools don't know how to govern, we can still be a functioning society. We just need less of them. Yeah, I agree. I agree that we don't really need government as much anymore, especially when we start getting into the digital ledgers and cryptocurrencies and smart contracts and stuff. I personally don't really have much faith in government to begin with. So, the less government out there, the better I feel about it. All right. Essential oil stories. UE. I looked up rentals in Astoria the other day. Only like two options. No wonder you had to buy a house. Yeah, right? Go look. It's horrible. And even the houses that are for sale, is like you get like, a 2, 3 bedroom house or something. I mean, and they're nice houses, don't get me wrong, but you got to pay like, $3 grand a month to live in, to rent one of these places. It wasn't happening. I either had to move away or buy a house. I mean, it's just the way it was. I didn't have much of a choice. Silver looking like crap, UE. Yeah, well, if it's looking like crap, then that would be, hey, there's the trolley for you guys. If it's looking like crap, that's the time that you buy. You buy when it's unloved, unappreciated, and that's when you buy. Metals market blaming crypto for why they are not considerably higher. Is crypto going to stand the test of time in a market that finally stops rising? Um, I don't know. Metals is not really, I mean, I've said it before, metals is not something that you should really look at to make you a bunch of money. You should use it as an insurance policy to have something that's of value that's away from a third party claim. That's what metals should be for. Cryptocurrencies is an awesome way of doing exchange. Like you can trade with somebody on the other side of the world and there's nobody who can stop you from doing that. Those two are pretty unique for what they are. Cash is also very similar in that sense that you can do trade anonymously with anybody you want. It's, in high demand. So cash, gold, silver, cryptos, that's the place you want to be if you want to have a medium of exchange. Anything else after that is a third party claim. Even dollars and cryptos is somewhat of a third party claim, but not really. Not in this. I mean, I guess dollars is that third party claim if you think that the Federal Reserve Bank is going to fail, go bankrupt, and you're going to take your U.S. Federal Reserve notes down to that local issuing bank or that Federal Reserve Bank that issued that and go get your SDRs and gold because it's a first lien paramount right. I mean, unless you're into that, I just don't see where a dollar's a third party claim. It is the medium of exchange and everybody around the world will accept it. All right, all of the best, let's see, John, all of the best priced houses in Astoria only have one bathroom. That's so true. Okay. I love tuning in and listening while I am at the desk working. Also, your understanding of crypto and smart contracts is refreshing. Smart contracts will fix so many issues we face. Yeah, when I started learning about what smart contracts were and how they operated, I was thinking, man, this is awesome because it's just going to pretty much make a lot of the authority that we deal with completely irrelevant. You just don't have any need for them. Hey, there's a super chat in there. Who got me that? Thank you so much, Osama, for the $2. How long have you lived in your town since you were born? No, I have lived here since the late 80s, early 90s. My dad was in the Coast Guard. So we lived here a long time ago. He was stationed out at Tongue Point. And then we transferred down to California. He retired, and then when he retired, we moved up here. I was about 11, 12 years old around then, and I've been here ever since. Eric, thank you for the $1.99. When is a good time to move and buy a house, in my opinion? When is a good time? Man, I don't know. I know if you're gonna buy a house here in Astoria, or at least in the Pacific Northwest where it rains a lot, it's best to look at your house in the middle of winter because you want to know if that thing is leaking or where the water runs or if there is any kind of issues because with rain going on about 9 months out of the year, you're going to want to make sure that your house, channels the water away and doesn't flood the basement and stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any piece of advice, that would be it. Eric, whenever you can afford it. Yeah, that's about right. New to the channel, love the content. What do you do for a living? I do retail sales at the local lumberyard. I do retail sales for the most part, and then really like a major part of my job is to do special orders. So like if you are looking for special order windows or doors or siding or something that is unique that is not typically stocked within the store itself, then I'm the person who goes and tracks all that stuff down. So that's a lot of what my job is to do special orders. Janet Yellen is committing treason by letting the payments for through why. JP Morgan and Citi told her what would happen to the market if the collateral popped, along with corresponding credit default swaps. Yeah, um, I would be really concerned if they were to force a default of such nation, such like ideas, like if they were to purposefully force Russia into a default and then that started a contagion, it would be like financial warfare taking place. It's not surprising if that would happen, but I don't think everybody is quite aware of like, especially within the banking system, of how like vast that would be. Again, because a lot of this is within the shadow banking systems, and so once the credit, the derivatives markets start to implode, I mean, it could get out of hand very fast. Excuse me. All right. Chickamawan, thank you for the $1.99 super sticker. Very appreciated. Okay. Well, I'm screwed. I thought I could afford it, but now who can? I thought my down payment was sufficient, but it isn't enough anymore. Yeah, if you're talking about buying a house, it's going to be tough. My buddy, however, he moved to Missouri and he got like a very cheap house. Of course, I don't know what it is to do in Missouri, but that's where he went to, and he was able to find some really cheap property out that way. Like, I mean, it was like ungodly cheap too. $50,000 or something for a house. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, that's what he went off and did. I mean, but you have to move, and like, I live in a really nice area. I mean, you know, the Pacific Northwest is cool to begin with. I mean, there's a lot of like, issues that, especially within the cities, there's a lot of issues. But for the most part, it's a clean place. Yeah, like as far as like, the atmosphere, the pollution is not nearly as bad. There's a lot of stuff to do here. The people are really friendly and nice. So, I mean, I enjoy being in the Pacific Northwest myself. But yeah, there's a lot of other places in the country that are a whole lot cheaper than here. That's for sure. All right, bought my house in 2015, up 90,000 in value. Yeah, at the moment. Um, yeah, it's kind of crazy. The house that I purchased, or am purchasing anyway, it's gone up an ungodly amount just in the 5 months that I've been there. To the point that it's like concerning, like how much it's gone up, knowing that it's not something that is sustainable, and there's going to be probably a dramatic reversal to that at some point. Of course, I haven't seen it yet, and when I do, I'll let you guys know about that. But yeah, it's getting to the point of unrealistic now. UE, have you ever seen the Essential Craftsman channel on YouTube? He's based out of Rossburg, Oregon. Different type of channel. Not financial. He's a contractor, but similarities to your own channel. Yeah, I believe I was talking with him at one point. So let's see here. Do you get an employee discount on lumber? Yeah, there's a lot of lumber yards that I have worked for in the past that give you an employee discount. Some of them are a little bit better than others, so I do get a little bit of an employee discount. Unfortunately, on things like lumber, there's not much of a markup on it. Hard to believe, although, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with that, but there's not much of a markup on lumber itself. So getting a discount on lumber is not really like, there's not much of a discount to be had. It's all the things that you use to put lumber together with. That's where like the profit comes in. Putting, you sell lumber so that you can sell all the rest of the stuff, right? That's really what it comes down to. You sell lumber so you can sell the nails. That's really where lumberyards make their money. um it'll correct once foreclosures increase. Now that's the other thing. Why would there be foreclosures? That would be the one thing that I would have to question. It was just like, so you think, okay, people are going to be coming out of the forbearance. That would be like one reason why you would see a lot of foreclosures, is because they simply just can't, maybe they couldn't refinance their house, they can't get these other loans, they couldn't get the modification. Why wouldn't they just sell it? Why wouldn't they just sell their home? It's gone up in value for the most part. So where would the foreclosures come in? This is where I really have to question it. Now I understand, like, during the great financial crisis, they were issuing out loans to people who really couldn't afford them. They issued out multiple loans to people who couldn't afford them. That's not really happening today. The criteria in order to get a loan is much higher than it ever has been before. And then on top of that, again, the prices are so far up. Why wouldn't you just sell your house as opposed to being foreclosed on? There will be foreclosures. People naturally have these foreclosures occur to them. Whether there's loss of income, death in the family, for some reason, there's foreclosures that should exist naturally within the financial system. It's just something that occurs. We had everybody not foreclosed on because of the forbearance. But coming out of the forbearance, you have to see what is happening here. Is it taking place? Are the foreclosures really ramping up to the style that there is going to be the flood of foreclosures like a lot of people were anticipating? If the prices come down on homes, I could see it. I could really see it happening, especially if they haven't come out of forbearance yet and the prices of homes have dropped. That could really create a situation in which there would be a lot of foreclosures happening. It would also add to the inventory level if you saw prices coming down and people trying to get out of those investment homes. They bought a second home because the prices keep going up, or they needed some place to put their money, but now they don't want it because this asset keeps dropping, so they get out of it. Or people who maybe finally are like getting out of the moratoriums and finally got their renter kicked out of their dang house and the property values coming down and now they don't want it either. There's a lot of reasons why you would start seeing a lot of inventory coming onto the markets, but I don't really see it happening with foreclosures, not just yet. you know Give us some time. If the prices come down like substantially, it probably wouldn't even have to be substantially, it could just be a significant amount, then you would see the wave of foreclosures. But that's just my opinion. I don't know. All right. I don't know. Mortgage lenders laying off. A huge grocery store chain around here is laying off corporate workers. Yeah, not surprising. I mean, I think you're gonna see layoffs starting here in the mortgage market, but at some point you're gonna start seeing it happening throughout the rest of the jobs out there. Especially when it comes to like things of finance, car dealerships. That's going to be an interesting one because I wonder what's going to happen with cars as interest rates begin to rise, and then the chip shortage, which I know a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but that's going to be coming to an end soon. A lot of these car manufacturers have secured their chips. They know where it is that they're going to get them from. They're either manufacturing themselves, but a lot of these are not going to be having to hold back on their production because of the chip shortage any longer. That's going to bring in a lot more vehicles at a time that interest rates are rising, in a time when there's going to be less economic activity taking place. I could only assume that's going to start dropping the prices of cars. I mean, I don't know, but that's my opinion on that one. And then on top of that, if you have less people, less cars being sold, then you have less people needing to be there to sell them, right? All right, onward. Let's see here. Yeah, hit the like button, guys. 261 of you out here. We got 83 likes going. I'll probably be out here for about another hour or so, is what I'm guessing. Agree on cars. Very curious how that is gonna go down next few years. Yeah, I'm guessing I'm gonna start saving up. I'm gonna start saving as much as I can to for a car fund, and in 2 years I am going to buy a Camaro. That's my plan. Hopefully you guys don't leave the channel because I bought a car. Thank you, Matt McPherson. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. The US dollar is legal tender for all debts, public and private. The banks are rejecting US dollars for Russian debts. The banks are defaulting, not Russia. The banks are rejecting US dollars for Russian debts. The banks are defaulting, not Russia. Um Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm quite understanding that statement quite right. The banks are rejecting US dollars for Russian debt. Huh. The US dollar is collapsing. What happens to the debt in the US dollars? If the US dollar collapses, what happens to debt in the US dollars? Um, so I'm not quite sure I understand these questions here. I mean, if the US dollar collapses, that means there's less dollars or that means there's more dollars. Like, which way is it for you to understand the collapse of it? Like, a collapse of it to me would be like people getting out of the dollar, getting out of US debt, getting out of all those things, which would ultimately strengthen the dollar. Like, the more US dollar denominated debt there is out there, the more dollars exist. Like, that's where the shadow currency system comes from. Like, anytime that you issue out a debt in US dollars, that ultimately becomes, oh, there's the great word, ultimately. That becomes currency. Like, you can use it. Like, I wrote this dollar, like, this contract is due in US dollars, and now I'm going to spend it out there. It doesn't have to actually be part of the United States, doesn't have to involve the US in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't even have to have our currency in it. It just has to be a contract that's due in US dollars, and now it's being used as if it's US dollars. And that happens all around the world. So if all of a sudden you have a collapse, like all of a sudden people are trying to get out of that whole position, okay? And they start paying off those debts, and they're getting a hold of dollars so that they can pay off those debts, and they're going to get out of these contracts. That is a shrinking of the US currency that will continue to increase the strength of the US dollar. This is very much the milkshake theory. Go down and take a look down in the description. George Gammon did an excellent video yesterday. I have not been watching a lot of YouTubers out there, but he was doing a video about the milkshake theory, Brent Johnson's milkshake theory, and I'm a huge fan of this theory, and of Brent Johnson and George Gammon. So like it was definitely a video that I was interested in. So it's about a half an hour long. Go check it out. Excellent piece. And it talks a lot about like why there is going to be such a huge demand for dollars going into the future. At the same time, there's going to be a huge demand for gold. You're going to see the dollar and gold rise together. That's something that blows like a lot of people. They're like, no, that doesn't work together. It doesn't work like that, but it will. All right. Mass foreclosures would be a dream come true. Yeah. I don't think it would be necessarily a dream come true. It would be a dream come true for those who are really looking to buy a house and getting into a house, cheaply. That would be a dream come true for it. But the environment that we would be in would not be exactly exciting to participate. If you are independently wealthy somehow, or have a lot of businesses, or just a good entrepreneur who knows how to make money whenever or wherever you are, then yeah, it would be a dream come true because you're the type of person who's probably going to, do very well and excel at that. Most people are going to suffer. The food shortage is coming is going to be painful enough. So, yeah. Milkshake is worth considering, but you have to remember that if it plays out, it's intentional. The Fed can remove the straw at any time they want and add more liquidity to the shake to shake it up. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that's totally true. But if you are in the midst of a currency war, if you're in the midst of a trade war, and you are going to destroy countries financially, then you're going to do exactly what the United States is doing right now. Let's see here. I think we're in recession now, in my opinion. Um, yeah, it's going to be hard to tell. There's been so much papering over of the system. Like, we should have had a huge market crash, housing market crash, massive unemployment. Should have been like a major depression taking place, and we should be in the midst of it right now. But they papered over it, so they postponed it for a later date. We're going to find out how they're going to try and deal with that, because when the time comes, I mean, it was just a matter of kicking the can down the road, but we're going to come up on that can a lot faster than we ever have before. When we do, you're going to start seeing those digital currencies come into play. You're going to start seeing negative interest rates on accounts. I mean, it's funny how Japan right now is basically talked about as like, okay, we're gonna do like QE from now on forever, and there's really just nothing else we're gonna do. And the 10-year is never gonna go above 0.25 yield. That's what Japan is saying. Well, that announcement was just a few days, or it happened just a day or two ago. A few days before that, their central banker was coming out saying that we will not issue digital currency so we can go into a negative interest rate. I mean, they came right out and said that's not the point of digital currencies, the central bank digital currencies. And I'm like, BS, man, that is exactly what they are for. And Japan knows it too. And they're just trying to keep their citizens calm. So when they do issue out this central bank digital currency, they won't be freaking out about how they're going to about ready to, man, I can't talk. They won't be freaking out about how their bank accounts are about ready to go negative because they just believe that the central banker, they'll believe the central banker and him saying that this is not what it's about. But that's exactly what it's for. That's what central bank digital currencies are for. Did I get another super chat in there? Gosh, you guys are commenting so much here. Oh, there it is. Awesome. Thank you, Garage360, for the $1.99. Really appreciate it. Hey, love the videos and these live streams. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure if I was going to do another live stream today since I had done one yesterday, but I really don't have a whole lot going on this afternoon, and it was so much fun that I figured why not come out here and we'll do some more live stream. UE, why the United States of America waiting on Philippine president election to select the president 22 May 9th? Why the United States America waiting on Philippines president election? I don't know. I don't know. I haven't heard that one. All right. What is that? Yamabushi? Nate 499 or 499. Thank you so much for the super chat. Digital currencies make it easier to cancel someone. Yeah, it really can. It can really it can do a number. It's going to be, I mean, it can be as scary as what people think it's going to be. The only thing about it is that it's not going to be in the beginning. In the beginning, it's going to be awesome. Everybody's going to love it. They're going to think about how easy it is and how the government has loaded them up during crisis situations, and everybody's going to talk about how awesome it is to use this thing. It will be after a generation has used it and grown very accustomed to it and not concerned about it that they will really start putting the screws to it. You know, that's when you should be really scared, is after a generation of use, because that's really where it's going to start. That's really where the power is going to be pushed. $1.99 from General Kinetics 89. Thank you so much. Rice at Costco is 1 year old. Get a snack on me. Well, thank you so much for the $1.99. I really appreciate it. Jekyll Island backlash is what I predict. Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny. Once people figure out the system, like, I think this channel is really a testament to that. Like, you know, once the people really understand how the banking system works, then it won't work anymore. Like, people will just no longer behave in a way that allows them to continue to have their power. But not enough people have figured that out yet. And I think people are, like, it's starting to really, you know, get this momentum moved up behind it, that people are really starting to recognize what it is that the central banks do and how they push their power around. But by the time they really do figure it out, I think we'll have slipped into central bank digital currencies by that point, and they'll be locked in. It'll be too late at that time. So, lots of laughs at the rice. Let's see, laugh out loud at the rice comment. Is that what you guys are doing? Okay. Let's see here. You're right, General K. They are also done with Coach's oats. And inflation bursts and deflation is the results. Yeah. Hit the like button. Yeah, please definitely hit the like button, guys. I really appreciate that. Here we go. Raymond, $5 super chat. Thank you for your insight, UE. Oh, and forget the rice. Get Costco hot dogs and a slice of pizza. Yeah, I really have to give it to those Costco dogs. Those things are probably the most, I don't know how to say it, like, you get more for your money from a Costco dog than just about anything that you could ever possibly purchase. Like, if you eat one of those things early in the morning, like first thing, every time you burp, you will taste that thing for the rest of the day. Like, you get to enjoy that sucker from now on. There is no doubt about it. They are worth every penny. All right. Let's see here. All right, who is this one? Oh, Senis? Is that what that is? I can hardly read my screen. 4.99. Have a good weekend. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. 4.99 super chat. So now he is in the shadow president for Puppet Biden, and together there are two who blew their objective by taking the Middle East with their ISIS proxy gang. Wow, there's a lot said there. Okay. I work in big food. Just had a market call today that all our SKUs are going up 27 to 30% this year. Raw materials and packaging are huge cost drivers right now. Um, I've been tracking 15-pound felt. It finally went up. It went from 31.87, something like that, to 35 and some change. I finally saw the inflation in felt. It went up like 10%. I don't know. 27 to 30% on all SKUs, all of them. I mean, that's quite a bit. I can't imagine that being the case. I could see that happening on a lot of stuff. I've seen many prices, even within my own industry, more than double. Like, I mean, shoot, 2x4s used to be $3 a piece. Now we sell them for 10. Sheet of plywood used to be $20 a sheet. Now it's 51. Those prices have gone up dramatically. Now, I can't imagine that there is going to continually see that kind of inflation going into the future. Like, that would put 2x4s at like $30 a piece, right? If it was going to continue, most likely not going to happen. I'd imagine like we are seeing the topping of inflation. You might see a little bit more of it, but you're not going to see the dramatic rise like we have seen. What you're going to see is food shortages. That's different. Okay, there's a difference between supply and demand and monetary policy. Okay, that's a huge difference inside of it. And when you cut off supply and the demand goes up, the prices will as well. And it's very easy to disguise inflation behind a supply and demand shock and blame it on monetary policy. It is really easy to make that happen. Now, my question really comes is that at the end of all the stimulus, when the Federal Reserve starts in on their monetary tightening, how far are they going to push it? Because that is really going to start causing some pain on the people. If you thought there was shortages before, you're about ready to see some extreme shortages coming in. That's where the difference is going to be, is that it's not going to be a monetary policy issue. It's going to be a supply chain breakdown issue. It's going to be from the lack of availability coming in, not necessarily because of the prices going up, but because that there is less available people out there actually participating in economic activity. Give it some time and there will be huge deflation because of that. Right? It's coming. We are going into a major depression. I mean, I don't mean to like be like a scary fear mongering type of person, but if you don't see like how we are going to go into the greatest depression anybody has ever faced in their, in the history of time, just think about the debts. There is so much US debt out there. And when that goes, when the people get out of that, when the dollar is finally done and everybody has finally had enough of it, that is going to create some serious pain around the world that people are just not simply prepared to deal with. Like right now, they think they have this good, easy life ahead of them. Like if you're financially independent, living off the interest of your money, Yeah, are you prepared? That would be, I would have to ask you that. Are you prepared to deal with a complete collapse of the system and a major depression because of it? That's why you need to have the gold, the silver, the bullets, the skills and the networking. That's really where the value is. Having $1 million in a portfolio is really nice if you think the system is going to hold together, or if you think you're not going to live long enough to see it collapse. But most people are going to face some serious consequences coming into the future if they're not prepared. I don't know why I get so doomsday. Sorry, guys. Okay, buy a meat grinder and buy briskets on sale and then grind them into hamburger meat. I recently bought 4 briskets for $1.87 a pound. Yeah, and that's an excellent way to go about things as far as like, you know, being able to secure food. But if you really want to know, you got to like learn to can. That's like preserving food, because you can stock up on all the food you want, but then if somebody comes and steals it from you, or you have to bail out for any reason and you can't take it with you, now what? You have to have the skill. You have to have the skill to preserve meat, to preserve vegetables. If somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, man, I was able to catch 100 pounds of fish," you got to be able to deal with that. I mean, you can only eat so much of it, and then it's going to go bad. So being able to preserve is going to definitely be a skill to have going into that, crisis situation. Thank God you got a house just in time. Well, yeah, considering the way things are going right now, it seems, it seems more and more out of reach. So, yeah, I mean, I was forced into it. I was not comfortable about taking that position. I mean, everything about it was an incredible struggle for me. But yeah, I'm glad I did it. I mean, I am. It's a peaceful place. My family is happy out there. I enjoy being there. Yeah, I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I was forced into it, I should say. All right, 377 of you guys. Amazing. All right. Hey, I'm torn. My house is up almost 60% from when I bought it 6 years ago. I can make 60 grand, but where do I go? My kid loves her school and renting is not for me anymore. I don't think you have much of a choice, man. I mean, that's just what it is. Give me back my bullets. Yeah. Isn't that a Beatles song? Lord Humongous rules the wasteland. Yeah. Thanks for being here, Lord Humongous. Have you ever listened to Guar? Yeah, I used to listen to Guar a long time ago when I was younger. Let's see. JNK is collapsing. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, the more you see the U.S. Treasuries rise, you're going to start seeing it encroach ever closer to that corporate debt, and the investors in corporate debt are going to start getting out of it. I said this a long time ago. I said this was going to happen, and that's what's going on. That's what happened in China. Like, that's what happened with Evergrande. They raised the interest rates. They put pressure on the housing market, or not necessarily the housing market, but just the real estate building industry in general, because it was such an overheated market. They tried cooling it off, and once they raised the interest rates, they started just like collapsing all the corporations over there that were over leveraged. These, zombie corporations who can only exist on ever increasing amounts of cheap debt, all of a sudden felt the pain of higher interest rates. And once they started to default, it started picking up quickly. China had to immediately reverse course and act. There was so much talk about government intervention, like they were going to go in and start buying these bonds up, these corporate bonds, just to put support underneath these damn builders to keep their real estate market from completely collapsing. But anyway, it seems like right now, it seems like they got a foothold on it, and that they're actually, back in progress again. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I mean, it still seems pretty iffy to me on whether or not they're going to have I don't know how to quite put it, like a decent housing market. Like, I'm not sure what that means. Like, is it good for the buyer or is it good for the sellers out there? Um, really, China said that they wanted to bring down the price of real estate to try and encourage more families to start. And it seems like that's what their intent is. So if the housing market starts to pick up and it starts to get overheated again, I would imagine that you could see them doing something very similar to the same thing until they can get their population growth up to where that they were hoping for. I don't know. Anyway, onward. Bye for now. I must go make my dollar bills. All right, honestly, thanks for hanging out, man. Really appreciate it. Australia follows, and then Canada and the mighty US as a finale suffers. We are all pegged to you. Yeah. Let's see here. It's a big fraud. Yeah, the real estate market, I feel, is a big fraud. Uh, yeah, the middle class has been gutted. The upper middle class is coming down and taking over the middle class position. Analysis, etc. How does PMI work? Like, if someone defaults under the policy, do they pay off the rest of the mortgage and they own the property? Um, I don't necessarily think it's an owning of the property itself. It's just the making sure the guarantee to the mortgage gets paid. I think the owning of the property would eventually go to the county and eventually goes auctioned, right? If nobody ever pays it, isn't that how it eventually goes? Unless the individual tries to sell it or do something like that. I'm not sure like exactly how that PMI, like who is it that gets paid, or what happens to the house after that. Grab a house when the bullets start flying. Yeah, I don't know if you really want to be in a house when the bullets are flying. Let's see. Really curious what that covers. I don't get it. I don't know. Let's figure that out. We'll do a video on it. Because really, don't you only have to have PMI insurance if you don't have like enough down payment? Like if you can't cover the. Anyway, I don't know. I don't follow enough of that stuff to. The property would go back to the lender, aka the bank. Yeah, but then what happens to it after that, right? Like if the bank auctions it off, is that what eventually happens if nobody pays it? Ow. DocuSign went from 350 to 80. All these retail favorites getting murdered. Yeah, you're probably going to find that happening a lot out there with a lot of these like companies that were involved within the lending industries that weren't exactly part of the financial markets, like that DocuSign. Like there was so many people who didn't want to be in contact with each other, so all these other like companies started coming up. Like Zoom was a big one. Like when everybody started going into remote work and stuff, Zoom just all of a sudden took off. Companies like the DocuSign as well. I mean, that's the one that we ended up using. When we were working on the house. But yeah, I can see where a lot of these companies are going to start going away as people go back into like actual contact, business deals again. Banks just want to minimize their losses. They don't usually hold titles. Yeah, that's kind of what I figured too. Part of the mortgage scam, fractional reserve lending. Yeah. Value stocks holding pretty well. They will lend them because you will own nothing and be happy. I put 5 down on 160K loans, 76 a month of PMI. All right. 60-year mortgage loans coming. Yeah, I don't think we're going to go quite to 60. 40-year, I can really imagine that. In fact, I could imagine that in 20 or 30 years, you're going to see that 40-year mortgages are probably going to be the norm. That's the only way they're going to really be able to keep the housing market going, is to extend out how far you can make those payments. Other than that, then, you can see, I don't know. I just don't see where like 30-year mortgages are going to be able to support, the people being able to make the payments on it anymore. Either that or the housing prices have to come down. I mean, one of the two. Or wages go way up. I mean, I guess that could happen too yet, but it never does happen, so I'm not counting on that one to take place. The dollar becomes worthless when we run out of bullets. I don't think we'll ever run out of bullets. In your opinion, is now the time to be stacking cash in preparation of the likely coming recession? I do. I mean, I'm trying to build up my emergency fund again, but you know, up until I bought the house, I was stacking cash, gold, silver, and cryptos. And I was stacking cash because of the buying opportunities that are coming. I mean, just look at the stock market. It's dropping like, seems like every day it goes down a little bit more. There's going to be plenty of assets out there that people have purchased, like their toys, things like ATVs and all kinds of like stuff that they bought to have fun with. They're not going to need those anymore. And if they're having an income issue or they can no longer afford their standard of living because energy prices have gone up so much, they will start selling off those toys in order to pay for their debts, to pay for those liabilities that they have. That's what I see coming, especially if the Federal Reserve continues to raise the interest rates. I mean, it's only a matter of time. The ruble is backed by gold. I hear that a lot. I don't see that. I see where the central bank was, or the government was buying gold. Like they had set up like a gold purchasing, but it was like under market, and it's not like like a fixed exchange. That's what would be like if you said so many rubles for so many ounces of gold. Like if you had that exact conversion, then it would be backed by gold. But to say like, hey, you can go and sell your gold to the central bank and it's actually not going to be quite to market value for it, that isn't exactly like backing the ruble with gold. Right? That's just putting gold in the backing of the central bank, but it's not the entire backing of the ruble. You would have to have like a fixed exchange to it, and that would be a backing. Yeah. Thank you, John, for the $1.99. Fidelity predicts 1 billion Bitcoin in 2038. Thoughts? A billion, like $1 billion per Bitcoin? Man, that would be something else. That would, like, what is it, $40,000 now? That would be like insanely high. Um, I hope so, because like I don't know, I have like a quarter of a Bitcoin. That would put me at like what, $250 million? Yeah, let's do it, man. I don't believe it. I don't think it'll happen. Let's see here. I feel any deflation will be temporary. Governments always resort to printing more and more money. Okay. Um, well, think about it from an economic activity point of view, right? How do you get economic activity to take place? Now, typically, when this country was up and running well, and what I mean by well, we were a manufacturing powerhouse, economic activity came from productions and savings, right? So if you could produce and save, then you could purchase. But then they found a way that you don't need to produce or save, you could borrow. And you can borrow your way into making purchases and everything. Um, Shit, I forgot the question. I'm sorry, guys. I lost my train of thought on that one. Sorry. This guy just drove by and was kind of staring at me, and I lost my train of thought. Oh well. Let's see here. Digital assets such as Bitcoin is safer than gold as it is a finite source, so that aspect alone will make it so much more solid than gold. Yeah, I mean, I see it both ways. I mean, as far as like, I mean, I see digital assets as a very unique and creative way of being able to do transactions with anybody around the world. I like the idea that governments can't stop you from doing it. That part of it is very cool. And then also, in the same sense, gold has very similar, traits to it. So between those two, I find them very unique and different from each other. But I don't see one as being better than the other. I mean, if you were to pick one being better than the other, gold can exist without Bitcoin. Bitcoin can't necessarily exist without gold. So that makes gold the winner. Yeah. All right. I have zero hope for BTC. Seems like a useless energy hog. No, I mean, if you don't see how useful the digital ledger is in how doing transaction with people like anywhere in the world without any consequences of like somebody coming in and stopping you from doing it. Like there is consequences from actually doing the transaction if you're doing something illegal, but there's no like, once you set it off into motion, it's gone. Like it's happening. That's pretty neat. Like there's nothing else out there in the world that can do that. All right, gold has been around since the beginning of time and has been used as a currency since we've started using money. It's not going anywhere. I agree. No, I don't believe it can exist without gold. You take all the gold from the world away, snap it out of existence, the computers will not work. Bitcoin would not work. All right. So you need to report Bitcoin to the IRS. Not so with gold. Yeah, you do. You need if you sell gold and you make a big old profit off of it, you're required to tell the IRS about that. Like, that's not something that you're supposed to get away with. When it comes to Bitcoin, you have to tell the IRS, yeah, I own it, but unless you actually sold it or something, made profit, you don't have to pay any taxes on it or anything. You just have to tell them, yeah, I have purchased it in the past, right? That's a difference. I mean, you know, you can you can try and like, avoid it, hide from it or whatever. I mean, I guess I just don't do that. Like I'm not that concerned about what it is that the government's going to come do to me. Um, I try to protect my own personal rights and freedoms as I'm walking down the street. When I do my communications with my family, I do them encrypted. But everything else out there, I mean, if you try and hide, this is the problem. If you try and hide from the government, then you go right to the top of their list. They will try and figure out who you are. So it's best to just give them as much information. In fact, give them more information than what they deserve or what they can deal with. Like I don't know what the hell the name of this program was, but he had a program that would run on his computer that would constantly search just random stuff all over the internet. So that if you ever went and put an algorithm to try and figure out what it is that this guy was looking at or searching for, it was constantly just miscellaneous stuff coming through on his feed. And he said he did that so that he can look at pretty much whatever he wants without like falling into an algorithm that determines who he is. At least that was his conspiracy thing. Let's see. I'm a small guy, not a billionaire. Stop trying to explain BTC to these old people. These people probably failed calculus as well. They just can't grasp the basics. It's like trying to explain the internet to a 98-year-old. No, we're going to still keep trying. We're going to keep trying to talk about it as long as people are confused with it and still need to try and understand what's happening here. We're going to continue to talk about it. I mean, it's coming. Can't hide from it. Gold will be money when crypto goes kaput. Yeah, better have some, right, Lord Humongous? Better have a big stack of it. I've been around from the time we were buying pizzas with 10,000 BTC. By the way, it's called a crawler program. Oh, thank you. Yeah, crawler program. That's exactly what it is. And yeah, I remember watching BTC crash on from Mount Gox. Remember like when Mount Gox crashed, it took BTC to like zero. Like it wasn't like it didn't have any value on the exchange. But what I found interesting is that even though it had gone to zero, the protocol keeps working. The program continues to function. See, there's nothing that'll stop Bitcoin. Even going to zero on the exchange, or if the exchanges get shut down, that doesn't matter. It's like that might kind of interrupt your way of being able to move in and out of crypto from, like, say, a cash position to a bank or something like that, but it doesn't stop the Bitcoin from working. The Bitcoin protocol ledger program that continues without failure, you know. If gold and silver became worthless, we will have bigger problems. Yeah, gold and silver will never become worthless. It is like, in my opinion, that would be an impossibility. They will never become zero. The only time I can imagine that gold and silver would be worthless is if you happen to be on a deserted island with nobody else around. Then gold and silver would be worthless, right? But you do not need fiat currency. No, you do not need fiat currencies. Fiat currencies are nothing more than giving you the ability to exchange. It's the medium of exchange. That's it. Fiat currencies are not meant to store value. They're not meant to they're not even meant to be like an everlasting thing. They are just simply a medium of exchange, and that's the way people should really look at it. Like, a lot of people say you can't store your wealth in this. It's because it was never meant to be stored as a store of wealth, you know. Not a bad time to sell gold, but I would hang on to the silver. Yeah, I don't think now is a good time to sell gold. I think gold is going to go up. I very much think the dollar milkshake theory is going to play out and that we are going to see dollar and gold rise together. I think those two are going to be stepping side by side, you know. Uh, let's see. I'm probably going to give it, well, I might give it another half hour or so. Weird no one talks about NFTs anymore. Yeah, I'm still trying to grasp whether or not this NFT market and how, like, fraudulent of a market that could really be. I haven't pushed the idea at all just because it seems that there's a lot of fraud taking place within it. So I just kind of leave it alone for right now until, until I think till the water clears out a little bit on that one. Exactly. Bitcoin will always survive. Decentralization is a beautiful thing. The uneducated think Bitcoin is crypto like all other cryptos. It's not. It's not. Bitcoin is very much different. Now, it's similar in a lot of ways, or a lot of the other cryptocurrencies are similar to Bitcoin, but there's nothing quite like Bitcoin. Nothing matches the security of Bitcoin. Like, they know how to attack Bitcoin. They know how to hack it. I mean, if you can take over 51% of the miners, then you can rewrite the ledger. You can make it anything you want. But the chances of you being able to take over 51% of the miners is like almost impossible. So, like, the security level of Bitcoin is off the charts. Like, you're not going to be able to beat that. So, yeah, there's nothing that matches Bitcoin, you know. Who's this damn scammer up in here doing this? Go away. How do I block them? How do I get that? Can I block them? Oh, maybe if I was on my computer. What I need to do is I need to point one of you guys an administrator so you can block those people. Okay, it's an illusion. USD stronger, all fiat garbage. Yeah. All right. BTC technically looks horrible, and the algo on it follows the stocks. Well, I think NFTs is nothing more than a waste of cash. I kind of have a tendency to believe that too, but I'm not gonna go all in on the idea of NFTs being completely good or bad yet. Stronger USD is like a boomerang. It will hit you back like hell, you know? Hot girls though. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. All right. Banks will not be disintermediated. I don't know. We'll find out. I mean, I honestly, I don't think banks are going to be. I think we're going to have a whole lot less banks going into the future. We're going to be more online banking kind of stuff. Not a spam question. Hex being Bitcoin with a change of proof of time versus proof of work. Blockchain, CDs, thoughts? I don't. A lot of these, oh, you guys are getting into a lot of the crypto questions. Gold and the dollar in all forms, but not so much as commodities. Purchasing power will be bad even with a stronger dollar. Yeah, it depends. Oh, depends on what you're looking for and what you're going to end up buying. I mean, you're going to find that other nations around the world are going to be in a far worse position than the United States is. And because of that, it's going to give us an unrealistic, unfair advantage, especially since we are going to continue to be the world reserve currency going into the future. People will demand the dollar. It's going to happen. It's going to continue. And when it does start to go to an end, people are going to look at the dollar and think, oh my gosh, look how awesome it is. What a great place to store value. And they're going to start pouring into the dollar, not realizing that it is absolutely the worst place that they could be. And then it'll eventually go away. That it's hard to describe like how that system is exactly going to look, but it's pretty much people going to be getting out of the dollar, like trying to get out of the dollar, get out of their debts. That is going to cause the dollar to rise and then eventually collapse on itself. So, other nations won't send US so much as it did before. Lack of supplies mostly. Um, Yeah, I can really see that, like, being less items coming into the United States, but still we are the world's reserve currency, and if the world wants that currency so that they could do business around the world, the easiest way to do it is to sell us stuff. So, why there's no girls in this channel? All right, dollar getting stronger as debts get paid down. Plausible for sure. Yeah. Oh no, it's gonna happen. I mean, go watch George's video. He did an excellent job talking about the dollar milkshake theory. It was a really good one. See, there are girls out here. Thank you, Seer. Girls don't need to worry about money. They just need to get with the rich guys. Yeah, I don't know, guys. From what I'm reading now, it looks like girls are taking over college degrees, they're taking over the professions, and they don't want to hook up with broke asses. So, yeah, either you got to get really smart or just be romantic as hell or something like that, because the girls ain't gonna want you no more. Um, Most women don't care about the economy other than a job. Okay, how about this charity scam like ACLU? Couldn't tell you. If you had a farm, is it a farmhouse maybe? A frame house, would you use 2x4 or 2x6 in this lumber market? Well, when it comes to doing construction, you're going to have to either do 2x6 on the exterior walls. You can't even really do 2x4s on the exterior walls anymore because code doesn't allow it. Interior walls are almost always done out of 2x4, so you don't really have a choice in the matter. I mean, there are plumbing walls that are done out of 2x6 that are interior walls, but for the most part, everything interior is done out of 2x4, and exterior is done out of 2x6. Let's see. Only dollar is a weight of precious metals. Okay. Do you think there is any coincidence that there has been a push for refinancing student debt and now they are talking about forgiving it? Um, they I have I doubt that they're going to be able to get rid of student loans. Okay? They're not going to be able to forgive student loans. And the reason is that just like everybody else's credit rating, the United States has a credit rating as well. Okay, and that credit rating is based off of their assets and liabilities. Part of their assets are these student loans. Even though they're not getting paid, it's still part of their assets. It's like they have them on their balance sheet. Now, of their balance sheet, the financial portion of their assets, like all the financial stuff, like all the bonds and stuff that they own, part of that, or half of that is what I should say, of the financial portion of their balance sheet, half of that is student loan asset-backed securities. They're called slabs, literally, student loan asset-backed securities. So if you were to forgive these slabs, like just take these slabs and just say, okay, they're gone. Like, we're just going to take them off our balance sheet and just pretend like they don't exist anymore. Well, then all of a sudden your liabilities are a lot higher than your assets are, and your credit rating goes to shit, and all of a sudden you don't. It's scary, guys. You can't borrow as cheaply as you once did. So it's not like you can just take these student loans and just boop, make them go away. Like it doesn't quite work like that. So how do you get rid of these? Like, okay, so you got the balance sheet, you have the financial portion of your balance sheet, you got all these student loan asset-backed securities on it. How do you get rid of those things? Like, you got to literally buy them. Like, you got to buy them off of there, right? So that you can keep your balance sheet in proportion, or else you'll end up so off kilter that it'll just ruin your credit. So it's not like something that can just disappear. How do you get rid of those student loan asset-backed securities? That would be the major question. So as these things have been piling up, and then the interest rates get accrued on them, and it just becomes ever more increasing of an asset that's not getting paid, how do you unload this thing? Like, this is the major question behind it. People just say you can just get rid of it. You can't just get rid of it. It's not that easy. They will never forgive student loans. The student population is so small, no one cares, and the rest of the population does not want to pay for it. They just want dumb people to vote for them. The Fed will buy them. Oh, wait, they won't. Well, I don't believe the Fed can buy them. Um, like, that's not part of their of the that's not part of the things that they are allowed to even purchase. Like, they can purchase treasuries, they can purchase mortgage-backed securities. A lot of people were talking about the corporate debt that they were purchasing, but that they didn't even do that. Like, they're not allowed to buy corporate debt. What they did is they set up a special purpose vehicle in conjunction with the Treasury during the unusual and exigent circumstances of the pandemic, and because of that, they were able to create a lending facility that could actually purchase corporate debt. But the Federal Reserve themselves can't actually purchase that kind of debt. They're very limited on what it is that they can buy. And then they also have to buy it off the secondary market. So it's like stuff that's already been purchased, like the treasuries. Like, they don't go directly to the Treasury and fund the Treasury with money. They have to go through the primary dealers. The primary dealers are the ones who have purchased the treasuries from the Treasury at auction, and then the Federal Reserve goes and buys those treasuries from them. And that's why the Fed isn't like directly monetizing the debt. It's the market that monetizes it, and then they go and monetize the market, so to speak. Okay, let's see here. The credible threat. Right on, dude. Yep. I mean, it's the credible threat. That's what drove the corporate debt lending facility. I mean, you should have seen, like, when that thing came out, I was like blown away by how loud all the economists started screaming about that thing. And I was one of the few people who were like, wait a minute here, how much have they actually done yet? Like, they set it up, but have they done anything? And as time went on, we realized, no, they're not doing anything. They're just screaming about buying corporate debt, but they didn't really actually do anything, right? They bought a little bit of corporate debt. They bought a little bit of the ETFs. But the information out there, that news, that's what drove the markets to go out there and buy that corporate debt. And now they're going to suffer the consequences from that. A lot of these corporations got all the funding they needed during that low interest rate world, and just gorged on that stuff. So during the next recession, I don't think that the government's going to need to come out and bail out corporations like they've done in the past, which is never very favorable amongst the voters. Like, they get pissed every time they see this. They won't need to bail out the corporations. It's already been done. They did that during the pandemic with those special purpose vehicles and convincing everybody that they were going to be buying it and got them to front run them. Wow, good explanation of QE or quantitative tightening. Wow. From me or from somebody else? I don't know if I did a good job of that. All right. Just put more ads on your channel to make more money. The ads give me a chance to use the restroom or get something to drink. I'm sorry, man. Put on I do have the channel monetized. A lot of times YouTube overloads. Like, I try to limit like what I feel is like, I know it's a lot of ads, like really, who wants to watch ads? But I try to space them out so it isn't too annoying. If YouTube is bombarding you with ads, obviously on the live stream it isn't going to work, but if on the regular videos, if you are totally annoyed by ads, just skip to the end of the video, let the last few seconds play, then just replay the video and it'll play without ads. Right? It's pretty cool. But watch the ads because it helps me out. What do you think about the bicycle business? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think we're going to have as many bicycles being sold because people aren't going to be interested in biking around as much like they were during the pandemic. Everything that people were doing during the pandemic, like the purchasing of all the stuff and hanging out at home and doing all that, they're not going to need that anymore. That's going to go away for a few years. They're going to go for experiences. And that's going to be the direction. Restaurants and concerts and movies and stuff like that. I won't pay. I'm too poor, can't bleed water from a rock. I'm staying poor. It pays way better than making a ton of money just to be in a higher tax bracket. Um, Bro, don't try not to. What is that, Eric? Eric, that subconscious that you have is going to keep you poor. Try not to do that. It's okay to not strive to make a lot of money. Like, there's like, making a lot of money is not something that people should be like having this huge ambition to do. Like, you don't want to die with $100 million and saying, yeah, I did it, right? We were saying that yesterday. You have to enjoy your life. You have to enjoy every aspect of your life, including the pursuit of money or something like that. But if you put it in your head that I'm going to be poor, or I like being poor, or being poor ain't that bad, well, then poor is what you will always be. You'll never go out of that mindset. So it's there's nothing wrong with not pursuing money. Like, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But don't put it in your head that being poor is okay, because that's all you'll ever be, you know. All right, just spend less than you earn. Yeah. I lose money every year. Gold won't move till markets look like they won't rebound long term. Traders need to get edgy sitting on the cash. Yeah. Well, people will get into gold that if they lose concern, like if they have concern about markets dropping, housing dropping, everything going down, and there is no safe place to be, gold is it, especially if you start coming into a sovereign debt crisis. If you come into a sovereign debt crisis where even the United States, like, people are concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to pay their bills, then you will see a lot more people moving towards gold. Very little doubt in my mind. Uh, Poor is a mindset. Nothing wrong with being broke. Being poor is your choice. Um, I used to get like offended by that idea of like, what was it? Being poor is like a mental illness or something like that. But the more I think about it, and the more I realize that it really does come down to, what it is that you have going on inside your head, what it is that you're thinking. I look around at people all the time and I wonder, what it is that they have going on in their head, especially like at the end of the workday. Like, do you have like goals and ambitions or hobbies or talents or something that you're pursuing out there? Or are you just looking to crack a beer and sit on the couch and watch TV for the rest of the night? Because there's a difference between like pursuing that worthy goal and growing as a person in your life, and it doesn't necessarily have to be towards just going towards money, but just like, pursuing like the idea of growing as a person. When you do that, you start making decisions in your life that benefit you. It starts benefiting the people around you, and you start becoming a better person for it, right? That is like, it's all in here. There's nothing physical or about the world that's going to change that. It's all about your attitude and the way you perceive it, and what you're going to do with your life and how you conduct yourself. So yeah, being poor is really, it's a mental issue that anybody can get themselves out of. You know, it's I mean, I think about it, like when I was at my worst, when I was like drinking a lot and depressed and didn't have any money and deeply in debt, I had no way, like I had no idea of how I was going to be able to get out of that. Like at the time, like it was like I just felt like hopeless. Like it's just done, right? I mean, what's the point? What's the point of even trying? Like everything I try real hard for a long time, and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, you don't go anywhere, like you don't get anything. And so you give up, right? And you go back and you just get hammered again at some point. Well, one day you just kind of give up on giving up, right? And you're like, I'm not going to give up anymore. In fact, I don't care if I'm $20,000 in debt and this is my last $20 bill. I'm going to go and try and pay off some of my $20,000 debt with it. And you start taking that attitude towards things, and pretty soon you realize it's just like, man, I've got half my debts paid off, and then pretty soon all your debts are paid off, and then next thing you know, you're pulling money in from different streams, different revenue streams. And it's all because of the way you were thinking. Like if you were just like, life sucks and it's hopeless and I'm not going to pursue it anymore because it's why I even try, then you're not going to get anywhere, right? But if you have the attitude, it's just like, man, I'm going to put every 20 every $20 bill that I have towards my $20,000 debt, eventually it goes away. I mean, it will happen. It takes forever, and it doesn't feel like it does any good. And even after, like, it was like, I always thought, man, if I was out of debt and quit drinking, my life would be so awesome. Like, that is going to be the best in the entire, like, it could ever possibly be, if I could just get those two things to change about my life: to be out of debt and to be free from alcohol. And it happens. And you know what? You realize something is just like, man, now that I'm sober, I realize, man, life is pretty crappy out there and it's really hard to deal with. And I didn't realize that I was covering up a lot of this crap that was going on out there with alcohol. So now you have to deal with life, because before you were just like, you didn't care about life, you were just getting drunk. So now you're not drunk and now you have to deal with life. Oh, wonderful, right? And then you pay off your debts. Okay, well, that's a really great feeling. It's awesome to be completely out of debt. And out of all things in the world, that's probably one that is definitely going to change the way that you perceive and feel the world. But it's not like your personal mental problems go away. You still have to deal with the resent. You still have to deal with the depression. You still have to deal with a lot of stuff that you had going on out there. And just because you're out of debt doesn't make your life just like awesome all of a sudden. Right? What comes from that is having peace of mind, having meaningful things going on in your life. Being out of debt and having money, yeah, sure, that helps out, but it doesn't mean it all. It doesn't mean that your life is going to get better, right? Just because you quit alcohol doesn't mean your life is going to get better. You have to do things in your life that have meaning behind it, have purpose behind it. Once you start doing that, you start realizing, man, all the stuff that I was ever like dreamed about having in my life that was going to make it better really is kind of pointless. It was doing something meaningful that really had the point behind it, and that's really what everybody needs to look for. Everybody has a talent within them. Everybody has something within them that they can pursue that is worthy, that something that you can contribute to the world. You know, writing, art, playing sports. I mean, there's something in there that you have that is what you were meant to do, and that's what you should pursue. Anyway, let's move on here. What else are we talking about? I'm just kind of going off here. It just means you don't worry about that part of life, but something else replaces that worry. Yeah, it really does. I mean, yeah, I think, like, there's I it's funny because like I see some people out there and I think, man, they really got it going on. They got like, really nice car. They their appearance is really nice. When you hear them talk, they like put off this like, this they're kind of jovial and just like always have like this really great attitude about it. But then I know them personally, and I know like, man, you struggle with a lot of demons, and you don't put it out there for anybody to see. And it's amazing. Like I think about it, it's just like everybody has problems. Like I don't care if you know, you got $100 million and just like everything is just seemingly just so perfect for you. I guarantee you, man, you ask that person if they have problems and they do. Like everybody has problems. I think when Jesus pays you a visit, you change your whole world along with the attitude in general outlook. Yeah, I could see that. I could see where that could happen. The video games almost got me. They took so much time. Took me a few years to realize my life was standing still. Yeah, and that is quite unfortunate because video games can be, well, to be honest, I like video games. I mean, I used to play a lot of video games when I was younger, and it's relaxing and fun to hang out with your buddies and do them. But video games also have like a weird like impact on your thoughts and your being. Like, it's fun to go into flow state. You guys know what flow state is? It's like that moment. Like you see it a lot with like the MMA fighters. They all of a sudden they talk about it, where all of a sudden they talk about time slowing down and that they're not thinking anymore and that they're just moving and that they're blocking the punches, they're dodging, they're kicking, they're hitting, they're doing their thing, but they're not really thinking about it, and it's everything is just flowing. They understand their opponent. They understand like where everybody is and what everything's doing. The whole crowd has disappeared. That's that flow state that they're flowing into, right? Well, when you play video games, it's like an almost instantaneous tapping into that. And you can be in that flow state for hours and hours and hours. And it can get addicting. And then pretty soon, that's your life, right? Because you think about these video games, and if that's what's in your thought when you go to work, and that's what you're thinking about all day at work, at the end of the day, that's what you're going to want to snap into, and you're going to want to get back into that flow state, and you're going to be there again for the next 6 hours until you go to bed, or even 8 or 9 or 12 hours later until it's time to go back to work. And that happens a lot with people. That's all artificial. There's no benefit from that whatsoever, other than that moment of maybe being relaxed for the relief of stress for that moment. But to engage in these kind of activity like for hours every day for months, years even, yeah, you're wasting a lot of time, and all that energy and thought and all that flow state that you had going into that video game could have been going into some sort of talent that could have been benefiting not only yourself but the world. All right. Let's see here. You can get a lot out of single player games. It's an art form. Constant multiplayer games can drain your life if not managed. Yeah. Kind of like YouTube. Yeah. There was a time when I would get like so into YouTube videos that, I'd be sitting there listening or watching YouTube videos. And then next thing I know, it was like, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm still like up, like, watching another video or something. It happens. What if the Mormons are the only ones doing it right? It could be. Okay, man, this is hitting home. Thanks so much for your insight, brother. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I'm learning a lot of this stuff myself. I'm starting to learning a lot about, even who I am and what it is that, that got me here, why it is that I'm here. Um, I'm realizing that pretty much everything that you have going on in your life, I mean, it's not something that I'm realizing, it's something that is just a simple fact now, is that everything that you have in your life right now is the way it is because that's exactly the way you were thinking, right? It's that Earl Nightingale, the strangest secrets, but it's really true. Um, I have a few friends who are still addicted to alcohol, and I try to, I talk to them, and they ask me, I was just like, man, what was it like trying to initiate that sobriety, try to, like, to push into that sobriety to get those first few weeks. I mean, how'd you do it? How'd you deal with it and stuff like that? Everybody's going to be different inside of that, and it's not easy. Once you break through and you look back at it, man, does not, like, hindsight have 2020. I mean, you can totally see what it is that you needed to do with your life. Everything that that made it work. Like, you can totally see it just as clear as day. But at the time, you had no clue. It was so confusing. You didn't know which way was up or down. It was just like, trying to even put one foot in front of the other was hard. Just doing that next right thing, like, just trying to say, okay, like, okay, I'm awake. Now what? Okay, it's time to go to work. Like, literally, that's how you got through your day. Okay, it's like, okay, now I'm at work. What do? You work, right? And you stay here until 5 o'clock. And then, okay, 5 o'clock. What do? You go home, right? Don't go anywhere else. Okay, I go home. Like, that's literally how your days go for a long time, trying to figure out what it is that you're supposed to do. Thank you for the $2 there, Joe. I really appreciate it. Are we in recession right now or bouncing back? No, we're probably going to be heading into some slower economic activities. I do not see us bouncing back. Um, I'm not sure what it is that would happen that would give the consumer money to bounce back with. Like, if you lower interest rates, that can get people out there borrowing money on credit cards or buying houses, cars, whatever, going on vacation. That's if you can lower the interest rates, or if you hand them a bunch of money through stimulus, or if you just happen to have such a great economic activity taking place and such a decent amount of savings that you can just kind of carry on the way it is for a time being, right? I mean, obviously at some point the money runs out, but for the economy to, like, run on its own, I don't see where we have an economy that runs on its own anymore. We don't really have a manufacturing that can, like, continuously provide us with an income that would allow us to keep purchasing the world's goods like we do. That's just not happening. We either have to go deeper into debt, or we have to cut government or cut spending or something. So no, we're not bouncing back. Are we heading into recession? Yeah, I think we are. But I think a lot more is going to be said as we move forward and we watch the Federal Reserve and their Fed funds rate, whether or not they actually get it up above that 2.5% Fed funds level. Like, if they can get it up above that, then we're definitely going to start seeing some serious contraction within the economy. At least that's my opinion on it. But I have serious doubt that we're going to get much above that. That they're going to talk about it. They're definitely going to mouth off about how much above the neutral rate, that 2 to 2.5%. They're definitely going to talk about how much higher above that they're going to go. But whether they actually do that or not, I think that's going to be a whole other story. I'm struggling with alcohol, man. At this point, I never buy more than two tall boys. Still buy them almost every night. Here in Canada, that's almost 3.5 thousand per year. 3.5 thousand per year. I'm not sure about the total on that, but listen, man, if you're drinking two tall boys and you're struggling, drink one. That's 50% of what you were drinking before. I mean, that's a huge amount, man. So, like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I mean, everybody has to go about it their own way. But if you're struggling and you're drinking two a night, then cut it down to one. Drink one a night, right? It's gonna be tough at first. You're not gonna be like, man, I want the second one. Of course, you want the second. You want the first one too, right? But don't buy the second one. Just buy the first one. Just drink one, right? Do that for a couple of weeks, and then don't buy a tall boy. Buy a 16 ounce, or you know maybe don't buy any every other day, something like that. You can't just quit. You're not going to, because what's going to end up happening is that if you just quit and you don't stay quit, then what you will do is you will self-justify it. You'll self-justify that today was a bad day, I deserve this beer, I'm just going to drink this one beer and tomorrow will be better. But then tomorrow you'll self-justify it for another reason. And then pretty soon you're just self-justifying yourself into drinking all the time again. And the more you do this, the easier it'll be to self-justify yourself into drinking. So don't go cold turkey. Don't do that. Like, I mean, I did it and it was a bad way of going about it, right? I'm not trying to have like an AA meeting here or anything, but like since you guys asked, when I quit all at once, and I had to deal with a lot of anger, resent, and frustration, and a lot of stuff that came from that, and I had to deal with that for years, right? If you go through programs, if you do the AA program, if you taper away from it, you don't have as much issue like I had with it. The problem with tapering away is that most of the time people will not taper away. They will cut back and then they'll pick it back up again, right? Same thing like as if you quit cold turkey. But if you cut back and he's like, okay, man, I'm only going to drink one. I'm going to drink one from now on, right? And that's it. You just drink one from now on. And once you drink one from now on, it's not a big deal to not drink two. Then maybe try not drinking one day and then go back and just drink one every other day, right? And you might find one day that you skipped a day and you didn't even realize that you were supposed to drink that day, but you didn't, right? And then pretty soon you realize you're starting to quit. All right, guys, I am getting very, very close to having to leave here. I really appreciate you all hanging out. I thank you so much for all the super chats and super stickers. Thank you, Steven, for the $2. I'm going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to head out. I'm getting thirsty. You know what? I'm getting thirsty, too. All right, you got it, bro. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate it. During the Great Depression, 30% of the population was unemployed. That means 70% had jobs. I can live with that. Yeah. I had a candy addiction. Am finally getting past it. Oh, am finally getting past it. All right. Thanks, dude. Well, thank you, All Nighter, man. You always hang out here with me every time I come on. The live streams, you're always here. So I really appreciate you hanging out with me, All Nighter. You're cool, man. Do you watch Trailer Park Boys? I love the Trailer Park Boys. Probably one of my favorite shows out there, and I'm pretty sure I've seen all the episodes. And Jesus, I tell you, Bubbles is definitely the best character. God damn it, Julian. Fucking always fucking things up. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, all right. Appreciate the live streams. All right, guys. I'm bailing out. Uneducated economist. You guys let me know.